Yeah, that would be
Like that's
tragic. And that's
yeah, that'd
something
be
that
horrible.
Lorenzo Fertitta mentioned in that interview with ESPN that, what if something bad happened and it just so happened that the guy that did it, you know, what even unknowingly did it, he was actually, he tests positive for high
Yeah.
testosterone or even steroids or anything. That would be horrible for the growth of the sport.
Yeah, as far as it, I mean, I don't really want to bring this up, but I mean, Mayweather, if of all the combat guys, Mayweather's got it right. He wants that Olympic style testing, the every week it's random, they follow you, you don't get a second while you're training. I mean, it's just edges like that are a big deal when it comes to combat
Yeah.
sports, and it's something that needs to be taken very seriously and not something that should be tipped around and danced around and poked at. Like it really needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed now. You
Yeah.
wait and
And
something's
I
going to
think
happen.
I think Nevada's doing a great job of paying a lot of attention to this, trying to get state funding for the drug tests for MMA fights, so they could do their random blood test even when you're off during the off
Mm-hmm.
season, even when you're you're not even training for a fight, they can get you. I think that's important for the sport, and even if they do that and just do it to a few people, I think that just setting that precedent will lower the levels of high testosterone and even other performance enhancers.
Yeah. You get somewhere like Nevada that's got a pretty solid commission, and if they, sort of pave the way and kind of begin the trek, you might see other states that promote or that host a lot of big MMA events, begin to follow because the something bad will happen on the horizon if it doesn't
Yeah,
get addressed.
yeah. It's just a bad, ugly thing for the sport. I mean, when you do it correctly, it's such a long and tedious process that's almost like, man, okay, you deserve it. But that's the thing is that people can do it incorrectly and get away with it with the way it
Yeah.
is right now, and with so much light coming in about Nate Marquardt, and not I mean the Chael Sonnen thing is totally different, but talk came up because of what happened with Chael Sonnen about the
Mhm.
issue. But with Nate Marquardt, I mean, showing that you can train at such a high level and then come in and just scientifically lower your levels on the way to the fight. That's a scary thing, and it's something I think that's definitely going to be addressed by the UFC and by probably some of the commissions. Um, what do you think the UFC lost in releasing Nate Marquardt?
They got enough, to be honest. I mean, he's a big draw, but his last fight, he was going to be headlining, I don't want to put it down, but a free fight. Um, so it sucks because he had a lot of fans, but they got plenty of welterweights and middleweight guys. They're not hurting. He's a dime a dozen when it comes into that bag.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately for him, that's the case. James, what do you think?
I think they really didn't lose much with him. Yeah, he was a very good contender at middleweight, and he could have definitely even gone for a title shot at welterweight. But also, there's scramble in welterweight right now. There's good uproar in middleweight, and really they didn't lose that much with him.
You think maybe the fact that he trains with GSP had something to do with it? He's fighting at welterweight, and he's probably not going to fight his teammate anyway. I mean, he said that he probably would fight him, kind of in passing, sort of beat around the bush, but he's never actually come out and said those words.
Well,
You think
from
maybe they have that in mind when making that decision?
no, no, I
No.
don't. But from what I heard, GSP told him to drop.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, so that right there says, a little bit. He knew that he was a big deal in middleweight, telling him to drop to your division. He knew that possibly could be on the horizon. Um, I don't know. I'm not gonna really speculate on them being trying to conspire. This. I don't know. I don't
conspire.
want to. Yeah. I don't think so.
Okay,
I don't
okay.
think so.
I thought I'd throw it out there. What do you think,
Yeah, it's
James?
good to poke the.
No, honestly, not at all. I don't
No.
think that it had any type of issue with it. I think that they wanted to prove a point with Nate Marquardt on this issue, and because it did happen with Sonnen, not necessarily in the same manner or the same type of situation that it happened, but it was the all under the same blanket, if you will, and it just they wanted to prove a point. They wanted to say, hey, we're not really going to deal with this anymore. Y'all are the fighters. You have to, you know what's going on with you. We don't really know what's going on unless you tell us, and it's up to you to come to us and show up and be able to fight and do your job.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, it's the same sort of deal. I mean, say you have a job, your job randomly, a lot of jobs, drug tests. It's not uncommon at all. You know, that your job might not do it very often. You've been there 5 years and they randomly decide, you know, well, here we got to do these. We need them on file. Does that mean it's okay if you fail? No,
Well, yeah.
it's not. It's
Well,
not
to
okay
them,
at all.
to them, it
It's
probably wouldn't be.
it's not okay at all. I mean, somebody needed to make a lesson of it. It was going to get out of hand. The fact that he did it and immediately cut him, that, you know, that's going to make everybody's boots a little shaky.
Yeah.
So, you know, hopefully that it gets addressed. I mean, there are guys that have low testosterone and you know, it doesn't hurt, but you got to report it. You know, like, you can't just not tell anybody that you're taking it and it not be a big deal. Telling Dana White, I've got it under control, don't worry about it, is not the way to go about that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think this is going to impact future TRT applicants?
They're probably going to be a little more strict about it as far as letting. I don't know. I mean, I think that when it comes to MMA and any combat sport, really, there needs to be a set of doctors. Those are approved doctors, and you can only see those doctors. They need to pick, you know, one for each state or two for each state. And those are the approved doctors that you can see. And personally, I think because of what happened, and it was sort of a doctor-related issue,
Yeah.
that, you know, UFC needs to, you know, maybe take a little bit out of their hands and, you know, just have certain approved doctors. And those are the doctors that are trusted. So if that doctor says that it was okay for you to use some TRT, then, you know, it's okay. It's not a big deal. You just have to watch how much you're taking, and then you get monitored more. If it's approved that you should be able to take testosterone stuff, then you need to be monitored for it to see how much you're taking. You know, make sure you're not taking too much, you're not abusing it. Yeah, they're gonna have to regulate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. One thing I just wanted to point out while we're on the subject, the difference between the Chael Sonnen and Nate Marquardt case. Chael Sonnen, you're basically talking about somebody that got his testosterone replacement therapy approved by Nevada. He has this fight in California and doesn't do the proper paperwork as far as they're concerned to get the approval for it. His levels were not high, although he was never blood tested to check his levels. And the reason why it's important to blood test is because the standard urine test they do, it does not show your actual level of testosterone. It only shows your ratio of testosterone to epitestosterone, which is not your actual number. That will not give you an actual representative of how much testosterone is in your body. With Nate, he came in with elevated levels. His levels were actually high. He was blood tested, and those are on record. That's why he was suspended, and that's why UFC suspended him from his contract, released him from his contract. Chael Sonnen was totally different. His levels were not high, as his doctors say. Now, there is no blood test on record, but what his doctors say and the blood test that he has from his doctors say that his levels were fine. Now, the most recent problem, as far as Chael Sonnen goes, was only because he basically lied in his initial testimony to California about talking to Keith Kaiser in Nevada, which he had not done. So then they continued his suspension for like a month or whatever, and now he's able to fight. But I think it's just important to point out the difference there, because with Sonnen, you're talking about a completely different issue than with Nate. And with Nate, you're honestly looking at a lot more evidence against him. And he's actually a couple weeks out, got his license, or suspension lifted, and could potentially get his license to fight any day now. So it's just kind of strange the way the different commissions handled it.